All right, founders, it is time for another pitch deck critique and review. And this time we have Crosby Health, and this company, this startup raised pre-seed funding of $2.2 million pre-seed. And I apologize for the salacious thumbnail being a bit controversial to get attention, but there's a reason I did it because this is a painful problem that they are solving. It is very painful. It is an example of how a startup that's solving a painful problem. It's even so painful to the point where this is something that needs an antibiotic. Literally, people are dying. I'm not talking figuratively. I'm talking literally, not just patients, but people who work in this industry. If you've been following the news, it's a painful enough problem. And it just goes to show that you can raise money if you're picking the right problem, because people will throw money at that, because if you can solve it, it's worth a lot of ROI for the investors. And it's a no-brainer. This is a problem that needs to be solved. As usual, want to give credit where credit is due. This comes from Yuri Rebrick on LinkedIn. He's a YC founder putting out some great content for his startup. I'm going to link a reference to his post where he's featured all these pitch decks. There are actually multiple pitch decks that you can look at as part of the series. There's 12 of them, and you can look at them all. I just happen to be doing reviews on each one of them, and I'm going to be ranking them as we go. Before we continue, my name is Ed Kang. If we met before, nice to see you again. Thanks for stopping by. Use the chapter markers, as usual, to jump to the actual part of the video. You're welcome. Making your life as easy as possible. If we haven't met, I'm a 7-time funded founder with 2 exits. That's just a fancy way of saying I failed a bunch of times to your benefit, because I use YouTube videos like this and this channel to help founders, especially early stage founders raising early stage capital, avoid some of the catastrophic mistakes that I've made. It's not to say you're not going to make mistakes, but I'm going to try to make your life easier because, it's hard enough as it is. I'm also the chief strategy officer for startups.com, help hundreds of founders. I've raised over $100 million for my startups, other people's startups, as well as startup funds. I work with a team with experience raising $750 million for startups who've gone on to raise billions by going public. Lots of great stories out there. So we know a few things. We talk to investors every single day. We got a fancy investor matching tool using AI. Check us out if you haven't done so already. A lot of free resources there. You can try our tools to find investors for free. If you're already part of startups.com, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Appreciate your support. While everyone's here, do the YouTube thing, like, comment, subscribe. Always appreciate your feedback. Let's jump into this pitch deck critique and review. First of all, let's look at the cover page. I would like to see a tagline right here. This is how you can improve it. Just explaining what the startup does. It's all about healthcare denials. So you can explain using AI to save costs on healthcare denials. Something like that. Just augment it just a little bit to show the investor this is what you're getting into. Remember, everyone, your cover slide is the one slide that everybody's going to see no matter what. So you might as well use it to your advantage, receive the benefit from it, don't take anything for granted, and put something up there that explains what this startup is all about. Here's the problem statement. I'd love to see just a little word up here that says problem, but that's just personal preference. Denials are spiraling out of control, and payers are using AI to deny medically necessary care. This is definitely a painful problem, as evidenced by all this news, and I alluded to this on the thumbnail as well. Although it's very painful and everybody recognizes this, and that's what timing the zeitgeist or timing the trend or the market is all about. How many denials are spiraling out of control? How many denials are being denied using AI? And how much is this costing them? Remember, we always want to be exact with our numbers. Just having an opinion-based problem saying this is broken. We know healthcare denials, that whole industry is broken. We're seeing the effects of it right now, but tell the investor some unique insights in the cost, the severity, the size of the problem. Who has the problem? How many providers are using AI to deny medically necessary care? How many denials are there? And what's the severity if this problem is not being solved? We want to understand size, scope, and severity. But this gets pretty much a pass because it's such a hot topic that people understand what's going on right away. And remember, this raised $2.2 million. There might be other pitch decks, but this is enough to get the conversation going. And that's a lesson we can all learn from this. Here's another problem statement, and it's a little vague, but understand AI providers spend billions to overturn denials. It's a little confusing, but I understand that they're paying $20 billion when somebody appeals because AI has denied them. It's costing them $20 billion to turn over the denials. So actual denials overturned. I don't understand this number. I understand this is a $20 billion problem. what is this saying? Maybe it's saying that the actual denials of return are 10 billion worth, so you're overspending by $10 billion. Not too sure what's happening, but it is a great way to explain the problem. And I'm sure if this startup, these founders were sitting in front of investors, they'd be able to explain this. It's a great live presentation because it's nice and sparse, but you can combine it with the previous problem slide and say X amount of healthcare providers use AI to wrongfully deny coverage for people who need it, which cost them $20 billion to appeal for only $10 billion worth of turnovers, creating a $30 billion problem, if I've interpreted that correctly. This shows that we've got the raw materials, but you can bring everything together and make it so it seems really painful and provides the investor an idea that, wow, if we can figure this out, there's a lot of money. This falls into the territory of value-based theory in terms of your market, how much a startup is worth. It's very important. If you can save an industry $10 billion, you can basically say, we're going to charge $1 billion and make it a 10xer. You might as well spend $1 billion to save $10 billion. Then that company's worth $1 billion, and it's very valid. And the more painful the problem is, the more antibiotic related the problem. That if it doesn't get solved, people will die. Billions of dollars will be lost in lawsuits and headlines such as people getting murdered. Then that's something that's a hot button that investors will understand. Anytime you can create a hot button and make investors go, yep, I get it. Huge problem. Everybody's talking about it. And you solve that problem, it's fantastic. To me, this is the right way to do it. Most founders create a solution looking for a problem. They come up with a widget, they fall in love with their technology, scratches their own itch, and then they try and shoehorn it into the problem and say, this solves this, and we're going to get investors' attention. In this case, it is a problem that we know in the marketplace, and these founders went out to solve it. Or maybe they've always been thinking about it, and it just so happens that timing worked in their favor, and there was this inflection point where the market told them, we need your solution now more than ever. I don't care what it is, but don't be a solution looking for a problem. Pick a painful problem that investors understand and know, and it'll be so much easier, even if you don't have the best pitch deck in the world. And trust me, this is not the best pitch deck in the world. You're going to see my rating on this. Even if you've got this type of pitch deck, you have a better chance of raising money by solving a very painful problem that is so severe that you need an antibiotic solution, or else people are going to die. Introducing Apollo by Crosby Health, the most advanced clinical LLM to date. So now we know it's an AI, it's an LLM that we're using to solve this problem. But if you're looking at solution, this could have been stated so much better in terms of staying away from saying most advanced clinical LLM to date. I understand it might very well be true, but don't get into hyperbolic statements, buzzy hype. You want to be explaining in terms of actual data, which is what I appreciate about this. MedQA medical exam benchmark. I don't know what this is, but we're heading in the right direction. You got 91.8%, 86.5%, 60%. It's really great. Average medical student, I can appreciate this. Comparing yourself to Google and having this comparison out there versus, I really dig it. You're setting yourself apart and you're getting the attention from the investor. It tells me this is actually working enough that we can benchmark. Here's how we can improve it. We could say Apollo by Crosby Health is an LLM used to analyze denial claims, automate the response, and save all insurance companies 90%. I'm just wordsmithing it on the fly, but you see how much better these slides could become if we combine it. Let's get back to the first problem slide. Here's how you do it. So size, scope, and severity. So tell me how many denials are spiraling out of control from how many healthcare companies, insurance companies, because they use AI, and that it costs them $20 billion in addition to $10 billion in turnovers. Then your solution is that our LLM automates that entire process to a better accuracy at 91.8% compared to Google MedPalm 2, never heard of it, and saves the company 90% in terms of cost to overturn denials. See how easy that would have been. Now, once again, this could have been said in a live presentation. I have a suspicion this is a live presentation deck, but it gives you an idea of how we could turn this into an introductory screener deck. I love this slide and how simple it is. It's basically a how it works slide. And you're explaining right from the jump, an entire suite of tools to automate denial appeals. That's it. That's all you have to say. We've created that. Now, you could have expanded just a little bit and explained how the AI works, but you've already did that on the previous slide, so I'm totally okay with this. An entire suite of tools to automate denial appeals. Now, if you want to augment this slide, it's good enough for a presentation. Like I said, it's a painful enough problem that you're just going to raise money based on this. And the fact that it's already working and the fact that you can see all these screenshots, just label them a little bit or explain how it works in a 1, 2, 3 step process. Who actually puts it in there? Does the customer go in there? Does it sync up with the healthcare companies, the insurance companies' software suite? I don't know how this works, but you can augment it just a little bit. But like I said, this in of itself is strong enough combined with the rest of this slide. What's not to like? It's still pretty darn good. End-to-end appeals on every denial drastically reduce the cost to collect. Tell me how much. So give me a 10x solution. Tell me that it costs 10% of the regular cost to collect. That's what investors want to look for, and that's what gives them the dollar signs in their minds and lets them use value theory to determine what this startup is going to be worth. You could have combined this on the previous slide, but I appreciate this information. High volume, low dollar claims can be handled completely with AI. That's the promise. Experts can spend 100% of their time identifying the best strategy for high dollar, low volume claims. And you can say this is what the AI does. But here's the benefit. This is a really good how it works slide. You could have included this information on the previous slide, consolidated. Overall, we're still telling the story. We're right on track. It's a good way to look at it, just be a lot more detailed in terms of how much money you're actually saving. So investors start to experience that FOMO, that greed sets in, and they go, wow, this is going to be awesome. And it doesn't stop there. I really like the storytelling here. Medical coding, chart audits, and it doesn't stop there. Here's more how it works. I like the way that this story is folding out. We're adding medical coding, chart audits, and appeals denials. We've trained Apollo to automate the billions spent on revenue cycle text-based tasks. What's not to like? It's a painful problem. Here's a solution. Once again, you could have put it all in the solution slide and a how it works slide, all in one, showing that all you need is problem solution. We're missing the market slide, but that's taken for granted because we already know it's worth $10 billion in terms of the appeal claims, and companies are spending $20 billion. That's your market. I still just don't know how many that we're looking at, and I'm going to be curious what the go-to-market strategy is. Founding team. We got some young, good-looking kids here. They totally look like founders. They look super smart. I don't know what RCM is. I don't know what Primer is. I don't know in terms of your social proof. You can expand these bullets out to make sure, or put logos if we're going to recognize them. But expand these bullet points out. 4+ years running RCM. I don't know what that is, but if it sounds impressive, talk about how it's a company that does $100 million in revenue or uses AI. We got the CTO, experience at Bioinformatics at LabCorp. That could be a recognizable name. XTPM at Meta. This is a perfect example to put in the Facebook logo. I don't know how that Facebook logo, I might have butchered that one, but get those logos in there. But this is impressive. This shows how much a team is going to influence the raise, because investors invest in teams and they invest in the idea that sparks them, and they go, this is the team that's going to execute on that idea. Suhas here has machine learning research. So now I know we've got domain expertise in AI, 3+ years quant finance. Really good stuff. You could just beef up this slide a little better, but it's pretty much already there. A summary sentence up at the headline. We've got 12+ years in machine learning and et cetera, et cetera. That would have been a lot better, but your slide here, it's already at an 80% effectiveness. The last 20% would have been those bullets and this summary sentence up at the top. Before I get to my ranking, let's talk about the slides that we're missing. And I'm pretty sure they're going to come up somewhere if you're already getting benchmarks, but I'm missing the competition and go-to-market strategy. First, go-to-market strategy. Healthcare companies, they're going to be extremely difficult to sell into. They are late movers and they're looking for something to help them, but they don't want to spend the money because just by the nature of insurance, they're trying to save every dollar because the incentive systems are not aligned. That's a problem with the healthcare system. However, this is a painful enough problem that if you show these benchmarks and you can show the results to a healthcare company, everybody's going to want this. And that's the dollar signs that go off in the investor's mind. They start thinking, wow, this is going to be great. So I want to know what the go-to-market strategy is. Do you already have people inside the industry? Who are you testing this with? That's going to get get investors a lot more excited. It might be proprietary information and you might be sharing it later on and you haven't included in this deck, but I'm missing the go-to-market strategy slide. Next, competition. I know for a fact so many other companies are going to try to solve this, just like you had MedLab, I believe that was the name, from Google. Talk about the other companies and show your benchmarks. Literally put it on there and explain the difference and show how you understand your competition. You got unique insights, and that would have been helpful. Next thing is traction, the traction slide. I want to see a slide that says the state of the product, how many customers you're talking to, what type of validation you have, and how much growth are you doing? How many records have you processed? Do you have any benchmarks in terms of how much money you've saved for companies? That's going to be a key slide. Those are really only the missing slides. All the other stuff is kind of academic at this point in time. You pick the painful problem that everybody knows this is going to be extremely important to solve. You're timing the market right. And I'm not surprised this raised $2.2 million based on the virtue of the idea, how painful it is, as well as the team to be able to pull it off. I think this is right in line with what the industry needs. And like I said, you're funded, so keep going. Look forward to hearing about this startup in the future. On top of which, this great acquisition play, you're in line to be acquired in the future by OpenAI or XAI. They got deep pockets, and they want to go after these verticals in the industry, and that's a great lesson for all founders. If you're building AI, focus on a vertical for a painful problem, and you will be an acquisition target. Let's look at the rankings. These are all the previous pitch decks. Don't worry if you want to watch them. I'm going to put them as a video to watch at the end of this one. I've ranked this in the B tier. It's B because it's missing information, can be greatly improved, but it's also a B because of how sparse, clean it is, and how much that this startup focuses on the painful problem. And just in general, by virtue, this startup to me is pretty much looking like an S-tier startup as far as potential is concerned. The pitch deck is a B. Let's improve it. If you did all my adjustments, it'd get to an A deck easily. And if you got more metrics and more traction, it pushes up to the S tier. But who might have complained? You raised $2.2 million, so kudos to this startup. That's it for this one. Like I said, I'm putting the other videos on the screen for you to watch and my playlist of all my pitch deck critiques and reviews. Let me know what you think. Let me know your comments. We have some lively discussions on the other pitch decks, and I get it. Founders can get salty or pretty opinionated on whether pitch deck is good, but you can't deny the results. These startups are raising money pre-seed, many lessons and principles for you to learn from. Keep at it. Let me know what you think. Thanks for hanging out with me in this video. I'll see you in the next one.